What's going on, guys? Today I am out here at Sames Ford in Corpus Christi, Texas, because I want to show you the differences between two trucks that oftentimes may be confusing to normally see. So a lot of people want to know what is the real difference between an F350 pickup truck versus an F350 chassis cab truck. And we're going to take a closer look at that. And as a wild card, we have an F550 parked in between these two trucks, and we're also going to show that as well. So hang tight, I'll be right back. First of all, I'm quickly going to show you the differences between an F550 and an F350 from a chassis cab perspective. Right off the bat, you can see there's a big difference in height. So this truck sits significantly higher than the F350 by about 2.5 inches. But as we go further back, the big standout feature between these two vehicles from a chassis cab perspective is what the F550 gets in terms of leaf springs and frame reinforcements. So the F350 and the F450 are going to be very similar in terms of chassis cab. The F350 is going to have a essential straight beam frame, these C-channel frames that go all the way back. They're boxed up to this point behind the cab, and then they use this kind of welded on bracket to continue the frame back. Whereas the F550 gets the same thing, except it gets more frame reinforcements. So the F550 has this extra piece of steel that's mounted to the section here, simply because the payload capacity, the amount of weight you can press down on the back of this truck, is going to be significantly greater than that of an F350 or even an F450. So the F450 and the F350 chassis cab share pretty much the same frame, whereas the F550 gets a reinforced frame. Now, another big difference is the thickness of the frame structure. So this frame right here is significantly thicker than a pickup truck frame. Even though this frame and this frame are the same thickness right here, again, you get that extra piece of steel here to reinforce the frame structure. Whenever you look at like an F350 pickup truck or even an F450 pickup truck, the metal is much thinner, even though it's fully boxed. So that's kind of the difference. With these open C-channel style backs that you get on Ford, Ram, GM, any of the trucks that use this commercial style setup in the back on their chassis cabs, they give you very thick C-channel frames. On their higher gross vehicle weight rated trucks, they're going to give you frame reinforcements, but the payload capacity of these trucks are really where they stand out. Even this F350 is generally going to have a higher payload capacity than any F350 pickup truck you could buy. That F350 over here is probably going to have about a 5,500 to 5,800 pound maximum payload capacity. That one might be a little greater since it is a relatively low trim truck. But this truck right here is likely going to have 8,000 pounds worth of payload capacity. And this truck here can probably get upwards of 12,000 pounds worth of payload capacity. So that's going to be your big difference when it comes to what these trucks are capable of in terms of weight carrying. Now, one thing I always talk about when people ask me, should I use something like this F550 chassis cab as an RV hauler? Well, you could. The challenge you're going to deal with is when you're not hauling your RV, the spring setup on here, the leaf springs, are significantly stiffer than something you might get on a DUALLY truck or even an F350 chassis cab truck. Let's take a closer look at the number of leaf springs that you see on this F350 DUALLY chassis cab truck. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 plus an overload leaf. So pretty similar to what you would see on the pickup truck version of this. Let's take a look at the F550. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 with the overload leaf. So moving these springs is significantly more difficult and would require a lot more weight. So if you have a very heavy toy hauler, if you have a very heavy fifth wheel gooseneck, this right here will handle the weight better simply because it has a much more robust leaf spring pack on the back of it. Even if you look at the hangers, you can see right here, this is kind of a stamped steel hanger for your shackle and for your actual leaf spring setup. If you look at the 550, you can see it's a casted unit. This is just a much more robust setup right here. And you can really compare the differences when you look at the front hanger. Much more robust, much heavier, versus the stamped hanger that the F350 gets. Now we're back here and we're going to take a closer look at this F350 pickup truck. Again, pickup truck and the chassis cab truck are going to have two entirely different frames, at least from the cab going back. That's going to be an open C channel frame, and this is going to be a fully boxed frame. Looking underneath here, you can see that you have 4 leaf springs with 1 overload, which is the same as this setup over here. The difference is the leaf springs are longer on this truck, and you can see the bottom leaf spring where it extends pretty much the same length as the rest of the leaf pack, except on this side it's about 4 inches shorter. If you look at the bottom leaf spring on the pickup truck, it's much shorter on both ends. It only extends about halfway to the end of the leaf pack here, and the same on this side as well. That truck right there is probably going to have between a 7,000 to 9,000 pound payload capacity, whereas this truck right here is going to have about a 5,500 to 5,700 pound maximum payload capacity. So big differences there as well. And something that a lot of people may not have realized is that Ford switched to a different Dana axle on all of their newer trucks. So a lot of people expect to see like a Dana S130 under here, and you can see that this actually has a different axle. So this is no longer the Dana S130. This is now the Dana M300 axle on the 550 as well as the 350 and the 450 truck. So it's a completely different rear axle assembly. And part of the reason why they did this is because it's a lighter assembly. It's still a commercial assembly, and some of the components in the 550 and the 450 are going to be larger than that of what you get in a 350. So even though the axle housing is the same, your half shafts are larger, as well as your ring gear is going to be slightly larger in the 450 and 550 versus the 350. Something else to keep in mind is the gear ratio on this 550 is actually a 488 gear ratio versus my truck, which has a 430 gear ratio, and versus the 373 gear ratio that you get on the 350. Part of that, of course, is your tire size, right? So if you have a 488 gear ratio, that simply means for every 4.88 revolutions of your drive shaft, you're going to have 1 revolution of your tire. So 4 spins of your drive shaft equals 1 spin of your tire. On a F350 with a slightly shorter tire, for every 3.73 revolutions of your drive shaft, it's going to equal 1 full revolution of your tire. So again, tire size can really factor into your final gear ratio as well. Now here's something that's really interesting to note. When I was at the Ford Drive event, they had told me that the DUALLY pickup trucks have this new grille. Now this is an STX package DUALLY truck, and it's this new grille which is designed to allow more air to come into the engine. Whenever you're towing, you need to, of course, feed more air into your engine. But what's interesting is I'm looking at this 550 and right next to it, and the 550 shares the same grille as the other trim packages that aren't DUALLY trucks, which is really interesting to me because you can see kind of matches the grills on these other single rear wheel trucks, whereas the DUALLY trucks, including this STX package DUALLY right here, which is essentially a trim package upgrade to an XL, which would be the work truck package, has the same grille that the higher trim DUALLYs have over there, but when you get a work truck package, the XL package, you still get the same grille that the single rear wheel truck has. Now I know all this sounds kind of confusing, but again, you know, I was kind of under the impression that all DUALLYs got this new front grille because they said it allows more air to come in, whereas clearly these 3 DUALLYs have the same grille as these single rear wheel trucks do over here in non-DUALLY configuration. Kind of interesting. I just wanted to kind of point that out real quick. And because I know a lot of people would love to know, what does a Ford F350 DUALLY with the STX package, essentially this is a work truck with a trim package upgrade, which gives you the chrome grille, chrome bumper, aluminum wheels and such, what would this actually go for? Let's take a look at the sticker. So this, which is also a 4-wheel drive truck, has an MSRP of $61,280. This has the new Power Stroke diesel engine, so it has the 1,050 pound-feet of torque. This has a few upgrades to it. Has the 355 rear gear ratio. Has the power equipment group, which gives you the keyless entry, possibly remote start, stuff like that. This has a 5th wheel prep package on it. Upfitter switches, spray and bed liner. Has the rear high center mount camera, which is nice. Off-road package. It's gets carpeted flooring, and of course the STS appearance package, which adds about $1,800 to the price. So between the power group and the STX appearance package, you have about $3,000 worth of upgrades to this truck that some people may not really need, which would bring the truck well under $60,000 if you removed those. But this does again have the Power Stroke diesel engine on it. If you opted for like a 7.3 liter, it would probably bring that price down an additional $8,000 or so. All in all, at the end of the day, it really comes down to what truck you're going to need for what application you're going to need. Simply because if you're looking at a pickup truck, you generally have a need for a bed. If you're looking at a chassis cab truck, you're generally going to upfit the truck and put some type of a special bed on the back or some type of utilitarian body on the back of the truck. Whenever you go to these different types of trucks, you have to understand your payload capacity is going to change, as well as perhaps even the trim package you can get on the truck. When you're looking at chassis cab trucks, the highest trim package from Ford is going to be the Lariat package. If you want to go to a regular pickup truck with a pickup truck bed, of course you can go all the way up to a limited package. With Ram, they're the only manufacturer that offers you the highest trim package, a limited trim package with the chassis cab vehicles, which I know is appealing to a lot of hotshot owners, a lot of people who are on the road for extended periods of time and they need a truck with as many luxury amenities as they can get. Anyways guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.